Now I will be introducing the next speaker. You will be hearing more from Christine Malnich, Head of Strategy and Economics Department at RB Rail, as she will be moderating a session on sustainability in a couple of hours. But before then, I would like to ask on stage Christian Piirsalu, who is Director of Contracting Strategy at Rail Baltica joint venture RB Rail. We know that market conditions have changed and many external factors have influenced that COVID and war situation in Ukraine, and of course that also reflects actions that we take in the Baltic project. So without further ado, I would like to give floor to Christian to talk about update on the cooperation formats with the market and how we are actually getting prepared for large-scale construction. And we heard that this year it's more than 150 kilometers of the main line under construction. So, Christian, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure once again to be here with you through this online medium from Riga, live from Riga. I will tell you a little bit about how to cooperate with the market, how we have been cooperating with the market, and especially what we've done within the last year. On a mega project, it is really significant to have this learning curve, noting especially the high value of the project, the high cost, and the timeline as well. And this is something that we have been looking into a lot over the past 12 and more months. The reason behind it is exactly to find better ways of working going forward and adjusting as we go on. Now, as we are more and more getting into the construction stage, and the amounts that we are spending, the spend of the project is getting bigger, and also we have a very pressured timeline, as was mentioned also before. So it is really significant to ensure that the approaches that we take going forward take into account the lessons that we've learned from the past, take into account what the market can do for us, what are the possibilities out there, and also what are the project requirements. Because also as we have gone through the design change on some of the route sections, and through the entire design phase, we have been making the requirements more precise as well, and as such it is important to adjust the entire approach. So as we've planned previously back in 2017, 2018, and undertaken the design tenders, time has moved on. There have been many changes along the way. And some of these you can see on the screen. There have been some very significant changes that nobody was able to foresee. And these have had major impact on all the infrastructure projects. And Rail Baltica is no different from any other infrastructure project. Simply, we are a mega project, so any impact that comes from these massive changes impacts us perhaps more. So we have to be very vigilant and very precise in our decisions and approaches. When the design tenders were launched, no one knew about the COVID striking us. So we had no understanding of their becoming such a difficult period. And since then we've seen the very unfortunate Russian aggression in Ukraine, the energy crisis, the heavy inflation, and also the Israel-Hamas war that all impact the market, the supply chains, logistics, and so on. So the contracts that we tendered initially were meant for a very different environment. And that's why the learnings are very important for us from that. How to ensure that going forward we can do things smarter, better, faster, and so on. So when we look at the market now, then we have high volatility that we can see pretty much regularly. So previously, before the COVID, we had set periods of stability. So whenever there was some volatility, then the stability in markets returned, and we could rely on the stability remaining for a period of time, for a certain while. Now, after COVID, we've seen so many changes and so frequent changes that even if there is some stability, it's not reliant anymore. So we have to be ready for some change all the time. So the question is how to do that. So at the moment, what the experience has been is that the material prices have been volatile, the energy prices have been volatile, so the input costs have a high degree of variability. So there's a continuous change that has to be managed by us and by our suppliers, by our partners, regarding the input costs. And this means we have to do things differently. So the construction market environment overall has changed quite significantly, is what we can see. And this is the overall macroeconomic overview that we can see. Now the next question is, how does the market impact Rail Baltica more precisely? So we look at, do these changes impact the Rail Baltica project, and how do they carry over? How do they impact us? And that's the strategic element of what we are tackling and what we have been tackling also throughout 2023. So there have been many discussions with main local suppliers, key players on the market, as well as international, so within the 3 Baltic countries and the wider market throughout Europe and beyond. And we have gained some really significant information from there, so thank you to everybody that has participated and has been able to provide us with this key information. So some of the things that we have learned and which we are also translating into real actions and real mechanisms in our contracts and in our working practices regarding packaging of contracts, of course. So all these changes that have happened on the market have also had a change to the financial management and packaging that can be obtained, or the capabilities that can be geared towards that by the suppliers in the wider market. So the question to us is, what is reasonable, so that we can make sure that there is competition, and secondly, we can make sure that the package is not too small, too big, so that they are manageable to us. Secondly, price indexation, something that was not really a commonplace aspect before all these big changes, especially before COVID and the logistics troubles that have come since. Then also closer cooperation. All these changes and the ever-changing market necessitates closer cooperation, because there are bigger risks that have to be managed in cooperation. And also technical requirements. When we are changing our approach, if we are changing the way that we are contracting, let's say the pricing models are different, for instance, then that also means that we have to think how we specify our contracts. What is the method of specification? Do we focus more on the output specification or the detail specification with heavy process requirements and steps along the way? So what gives us the better flexibility? So these are the questions that we have been going through, and already tenderers can see also the changes and improvements in our contracts and in our procurement packages. And something that we have learned as well is that the client support in a bigger capacity, more client support is expected from us, from the project leaders, developers. And to be more precise, I will give you a couple of examples of that. But before I do, I would like to stress that it's important also to be able to look within oneself, and this is what we've done in combination with talking to the market. So when we have undertaken the lessons learned of previous contracts and the design phase that we have undertaken, then we have also looked upon what are the things we need to improve in our organization. And this gives us also the way ahead in discussion with the market, understanding what we are capable to change, what we can manage, and what is reasonable to do. So just to give you a couple of examples of the information that we have obtained and the significance of this information when we are preparing for next packages from a strategic viewpoint. So preferred pricing models, for instance. You can see the comparison on the slides between 2021 and 2023. So in 2021, there was still pretty much the previous practice that existed before COVID, because changes in the acceptability of approaches take a little bit of time as well. So there was pretty much still a fixed price approach that was believed to work quite well within the region, and that was kind of the practice and the preference also of pretty much anybody that was doing business mostly locally in infrastructure projects and so on. Now with the changes making big impact upon the various projects and the risk of volatility really sinking in, we have got to a place in 2023 where nobody that we talk to, and we talk to quite many companies locally and internationally, anymore prefers fixed price contracts. And this has become the most expensive thing to buy. Because of the volatility, because of the risks, and also the logistics issues that impact the timelines of projects as well, this is a risk that has to be factored in with many, many unknowns, and therefore provides a high risk margin. So this is what we have taken into account, and you can see also the Rail Baltica project shifting gradually to various more sophisticated pricing models. And something else that we can see is that actual cost models are being more and more preferred and looked into, also by the local market. And indexation is something that has become pretty much as a standard approach, that any contracts that are longer than 12 months or have the likelihood of exceeding a 12-month period, in some cases even less, have the need for indexation to make sure that the market volatility can be addressed. And of course regular payments to ensure cash flow, because the difficulties in the market, although we have different markets also that work slightly differently, each of the Baltic countries has their own particularities, and the international wider market works slightly differently, then the key principles are the same. And also advance payments. We've looked into advance payment importance and the proportions, the various proportions, so you can see also the difference between 2021 and 2023. And the reason for looking into that is that it gives us understanding of the risk of cash flow for contractors and the significance of that risk. So we can see that the advance payment proportions that are preferred by the various market players have increased, and this gives us the decision that we have to make when we prepare any package, any contract, that we need to build in more ability to deal with potential advance payments and make sure that the cash flow from the start of the contract, from the start of the package, is well managed. And so overall, to recap, what we have done over the past year is we have looked at our own wider organisation, predominantly with a focus of what has been good with the design phase and what needs to be improved, and how we go on with the construction phase and what are the right approaches. We have talked to the wider market regarding the various options and got quite very specific information regarding the options available and the preferences, and we have taken a look at what are the project requirements, what are the deadlines, what is the financing, and so on, and out of all that becomes a way forward for us that we have to take. So that is the overall strategic view that we have towards our packaging. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian. To maybe warm up the questions and answers, there was a question from the public. So who are the construction companies being involved in the project? It's a wide question, but maybe you have a structured answer for that.
Yes, the best way to look at who is actually involved is please open up either the e-procurement website or our website, and you can see the tender archive, who is participating, and so on. So that's the most pragmatic, factual information that we can provide. Overall, I would say that pretty much all the main local players and international players throughout Europe and throughout the railway world are participating in the project as well, because it's so big.
Yes, and thank you. And then there's one question that I think that we have received numerous times, but I think it's worth repeating. So those who are asking whether it's still whether there's still options to participate in Rail Baltic project, because we are advancing and construction has started or largely starting. So what would be the answer to those who are asking whether there's still a chance to be a part of the project?
There definitely is a chance to be a part. And this is something that my dear colleague Martin Splaus will soon explain as well, what the opportunities are. When looking at the opportunities, there are two ways to take part, obviously. One is as the main contractor participating in the tender, another is as a subcontractor. So depending on what is the nature of your organization, then please either approach ourselves or one of the main contractors for the opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Question from the public. So you presented various improvements and changes, but have you actually changed anything for the contracts that you are procuring?
That's a very good question. Thank you. We have actually. You can see the changes in our most recent tenders. We have added indexation mechanisms there. Mm-hmm. We have improved payment terms. We have also added additional mechanisms or clauses or approaches regarding incentivizing closer cooperation. And especially, I think, one key item to note is what's currently happening in Estonia with setting up the alliance contracting. Mm-hmm. So that is something that is novel and something that hasn't been done in the railway sector before throughout the Baltics. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely something we are taking on, and all this information and analysis, lessons learned and market information has given us the information to make decisions upon what we need to do, what the risks are, and how to take these approaches forward. What are the risks we need to resolve, and what are the discussions that we need to have with the market to make sure that these approaches work.
Thank you. So I believe we will hear more about alliance contracting in the next session. I will be saying thank you to Christian. So if any more questions